I'm Beatrice, and I'm going to talk to you about hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents are fissures in the planet's surface that emit geothermally heated water. They're usually found near places of volcanic activity and places where the tectonic plates are moving apart. Hydrothermal vents are kind of the ocean equivalent of geysers and hot springs, as really hot water underneath the Earth's crust rises into the ocean through the Earth's surface through these little vents. The mid-ocean ridges are an underwater mountain chain formed by the movement of the tectonic plates. A vast majority of hydrothermal vents are found along the mid-ocean ridges, such as the East Pacific Rise and the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. With that, you can see that the global distribution of hydrothermal vents, according to latitude, lie around the area of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge between 60 degrees north and 30 degrees south, which is the overall latitude where other ocean ridges are present as well. As we all know, due to density, warm water rises and cold water sinks. That said, the water at the bottom of the ocean is very, very cold, at an average of 2 degrees Celsius. With that, the cold seawater that is cycled into the Earth's crust and heated up by very, very, very hot magma, and like I mentioned before, that water is propelled through the formed vents at a temperature ranging from 60 to 464 degrees Celsius. Here's a diagram clearly explaining the process of the heating up of the water and how it comes up through the hydrothermal vents. Now you must be thinking, Beatrice, the diagram said that nutrients are released in hydrothermal vents. Well, guess what? I have a picture describing every single element that exists in the hydrothermal vent environment. Not only that, I have a description of the temperature, acidity, dissolved oxygen, and the compound of hydrogen sulphide. And in case you're wondering, the MM stands for millimoles, the μm stands for micromoles, and the nm stands for nanomoles. Of course, you don't need to memorize all the concentrations of these elements in hydrothermal vents, but it's always good to have an idea and a clear picture of what the environment is like. Now you're probably wondering what kind of animals even live down here, because it's the bottom of the ocean and the water that comes out of the hydrothermal vents is heated by magma. But let me tell you, there's quite a few. And of course, you can probably guess what the abiotic limiting factors are in this environment. Very high pressure, very low temperature, no sunlight, of course, because it's the bottom of the ocean, as well as an abundance of toxic molecules such as hydrogen sulphide. Because of all this, it's no real surprise that the main producers in hydrothermal vents are bacteria. These bacteria use mostly hydrogen sulphide to convert into energy for all the other organisms in the ecosystem to use. This process, of course, is known as chemosynthesis, and the possible equations in hydrothermal vent environments go as follows. With that, the primary consumers are the vent bacteria and the symbiotic bacteria, which are then consumed by the primary consumers of vent zooplankton, vent amphipod, vent shrimp, vent clam, raphia worm, vent mussel, and Pompeii worms. You can then see how this diagram of a food web extends into the secondary consumers and the tertiary consumers. Three of the main predator-prey relationships in the hydrothermal vents are the zooarctic fish and the vent shrimp, the blind crab and the dandelion siphonodes, and the vent ratfish and the gallopide crab. If you need to know how to spell any of that, just go back to the food web diagram and you will see it. Now these tulip-looking little organisms that you see here are the tube worms of the vents. One of the main symbiotic relationships in the hydrothermal vents are the relationship between the tube worm and bacteria. The giant tube worms have no digestive systems and rely solely on the bacteria for their nutrition. The ends of the worms' bodies are red because they contain haemoglobin, which is the pigment in human blood. Haemoglobin combines with hydrogen sulphide and transports it to the bacteria living inside the worm. In return, the bacteria oxidize the hydrogen sulfide and convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrates, the energy source for the worm. So the worm gives the bacteria a little home, and the bacteria gives the worm its life. Because without the bacteria, it would be dead. It would not be living in the vent. Given that the hydrothermal vents is a biome with very extreme living conditions, animals have had to develop adaptations to be able to endure them. For example, the giant tube worm has developed a gill surface which captures all the passing minerals flowing out of the vents and smokers, in order to fight the highly poisonous properties of the hydrogen sulfide that is abundant in the hydrothermal vents. In addition, the haemoglobin of the tube worm has adapted to bind to sulfide molecules as well as oxygen like normal hemoglobin. This process is important because it ensures that there will not be any blood poisoning in the species, and it will be able to feed the bacteria living within the tube worms. As I mentioned before, the temperature of the water surrounding the hydrothermal vents is of about 2 degrees Celsius, and the water that comes out of the hydrothermal vents goes up to 464 degrees Celsius. These organisms need to be able to adapt to these temperature differences that might skyrocket to 464 degrees. In addition, the animals living in this biome need to adapt to rapidly changing temperatures. Fun fact, organisms that thrive in extreme conditions are called extremophiles. The biggest human impact on hydrothermal vents is seafloor mining. Seafloor mining is targeted at hydrothermal vents because chemical-rich fluids spew from the seafloor and accumulate into metals. And the reason why we do this is because us humans are obsessed with little shiny things that we can't find anywhere else. So we have to go to the bottom of the ocean and extract all these rich minerals that, deplete the resources down there, as well as our economical resources and effort and time. And a potential solution for this would be to control and monitor human greed, which is very, very difficult because we are quite stubborn and intransigent, and if we want something, we will get it no matter what, even if we destroy seafloor ecosystems or if we waste money and resources. Even though ocean littering is clearly a problem, it does not directly affect hydrothermal vents because, they're at the bottom of the ocean. In fact, seafloor mining is currently the only anthropogenic activity that has a major impact on vent ecosystems. Another thing that makes hydrothermal vents very unique is that scientists first discovered hydrothermal vents in 1977. Because of this, we know very little about hydrothermal vents. In fact, we don't even know if there is an endangered species down there because we haven't been tracking them for that long. Besides, it is very, very difficult to just collect data of the sea floor because it's so deep down, as you can see in this diagram of all the ocean depths where the hydrothermal vents lie. Exploring and collecting data on hydrothermal vents is complicated, time-consuming, and most of all expensive due to all the equipment that is necessary to do this. I highly, highly, highly doubt that anybody made it this far in my video, but if you did, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it very much. The 4.5 hours that I spent on this weren't for nothing. Thank you very much.